Welcome to English Vocabulary. Let's get started with the list.
Under the table.
Example. By 3.30, everybody was under the table.
As, full as a goog.
For example, he was fit as a mallee bull, but full as a goog, completely tanked.
As, pissed as a newt, or fart. Guttered.
Let's try it in a sentence. I went to the pub at 4 p.m. with a bunch of mates, got absolutely gutted and went to a party about 1. Next example. I do intend to get absolutely gutted in the evening, however.
Hammered.
Let's try it in a sentence. The only thing they expect is to get hammered on the pitch and in the pubs. Another example. Hayden looked to be having the time of her life. We brought out the best in her, even when a majority of us were quite hammered. Next example. She's the responsible one, even when she's hammered out of her skull.
Lashed.
For example, they were all eager to get lashed and start their working week off with a hangover. Another example. I'm afraid I return unshaken in the notion that the best way to flirt is to stay in a bar until everyone's lashed.
Out of one's skull.
For instance, Emil's drunk out of his skull and Lexi's scared to death. Let's check another sentence. I was bored out of my skull listening to about 2.5 hours of the above. Another example. People can feel there is nothing to identify with but David Beckham, and all that's left is to get out of your skull on drugs and alcohol.
Rat-arsed.
For example, there is a danger of getting rat-arsed on the local brew.
Ratted.
For instance, we'd already lost interest and turned the film into a drinking game, meaning we were ratted by the time the titles came up. Let's check another sentence. In fact, I would safely say that having cash spare at the end of the week, how many pints of lager it would take to get ratted and the chances of getting laid were much more serious concerns. Let's check another sentence. But although there was a scare with my first sample being clear, as we'd only just arrived, my second proved that I, along with the entire Sunday Herald table, was completely ratted and therefore allowed to keep the trophy.
Wrecked.
For example, we need to change this way of thinking and bring back the idea that a pleasant night at the pub can be a time for a few drinks and a chat, not a reason to get totally wrecked. Another example. We are looking for someone who can share a good conversation, not somebody who is just going to get wrecked. Let's check another sentence. I don't drink often, because I end up totally wrecked, with a horrible hangover the next day.
Arseholed.
Let's try it in a sentence. By the time the doors opened, he was arseholed on rum and got progressively more arseholed until he could take no more and fell over at about 12 o'clock. Let's check another sentence. Pat turned up at the Phoenix Hotel just after 6, arseholed.
Mashed.
Example. He came home really mashed.
Blootered.
For instance, our young women are now officially the most blootered in Europe, and some surveys show a terrifying, tenfold increase in the incidence of cirrhosis in people aged 25 to 40 over the past 3 decades. Another example. So I went and got blootered in a Brighton hotel. Let's check another sentence. First impressions can be deceptive, as she discovered on that first night when she got blootered and half the house took against her.
Stoned.
For instance, they're in the local pubs getting stoned.
Smashed.
For instance, when they go back to the barracks, the single men get smashed. Another example. Christine was already smashed and wanted to go home. Let's check another sentence. We got a bottle of vodka, come down the creek and let's get smashed.
Sozzled.
Let's try it in a sentence. We will be sitting happily by the banks of the Corrib getting pleasantly sozzled and feeding swans with leftover potato salad, or something. Let's check another sentence. It also means that seniors are scared to walk out after the pubs close because of sozzled youths acting funky, smashing shop windows, trashing the public loose, doing drugs in the bus shelter and so forth. Let's check another sentence. He had crammed revision in at the last possible minute and wasted most of his study leave going out with the mates and getting sozzled.
Pie-eyed.
Example. There is enough 150-year-old whiskey resting underground where the old River Queen sank to get 130,000 people pie-eyed. Another example. Looking along the street towards the snow-sugared mountains in the distance, packs of pie-eyed youths stagger out of bars, shrieking and lumbering around inelegantly like something out of a painting by Bosch. Next example. So while I'm sat there, pie-eyed at the screen, she told him how a shop assistant in Los Angeles thought she was pregnant, asking when's it due?
Plastered.
Example. He walked through the front entrance, following a plastered classmate who was having considerable difficulty standing up. Next example. She glared at her plastered mother, bending over to clean up the broken pieces of the mug. Next example. If you get completely plastered, and wander home inanely grinning at passers-by, you're not a problem.
What do you think of this list? Please share your opinion in the comment section below. If you liked the video, please hit the thumb up and share it. Also, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so. By the way, the photos on this video are street photography of London, and don't directly represent the topics. You can find the photographer's Instagram in the description below. If you have any suggestion for the video graphics, please let us know in the comments.